Hi, welcome to Now and Zen. My name is Stephen Weigel. I'm the host of Now and Zen. Today we have Sintel, electronic musician extraordinaire, and also somebody who I think might be good at biology because of his Genome album. So welcome.
Hello.
Yes.
Glad to be here, yeah. Actually, hard to describe myself, I guess, because I'm trying to do as many things as I can.
Yeah.
I'm actually training to be a biologist, or I'd say I'm in bioengineering, bioinformatics, but musician in my spare time, also programming, drawing,
Okay, so biology is what you're doing in school then?
Yeah, I'm in my master's bioinformatics.
Nice. So how did you sequence the human genome or sonify it then?
Oh, well, the human genome, it's just online. You can just download it. So, I mean, it's just the data, and then it's actually way too easy because Audacity has a function to import anything as audio.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
It just reads the raw bytes. It just reads it. I mean, I did some things to make it nicer to turn it into audio, but it's pretty funny. There's some glitch artists who just open up random exe files in Audacity and use that as music, I guess. It's pretty funny. You can hear some what's interesting to me is it sounds mostly like noise, but there's some highly repetitive pieces in your DNA, at the telomeres, and you can actually hear them. You can hear in the audio files where the telomeres start and the centromere starts. So that's pretty fun. I don't think anyone has listened to it seriously, though.
Right, yeah, because I listened to it and I was like, a lot of these sound the same. And then I started the X and the Y chromosome and they sounded different. Is that because of the telomeres are they at the beginning of those? I don't really know how chromosomes work.
The Y chromosome is just weird. It's very small and it has a lot of repetitive stuff in it. So that one's actually the most interesting, I think, to listen to. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And then you had the mitochondrial DNA, and I clicked on that, and it just immediately stopped.
It's less than 1 second. Yeah, that one's just small piece of DNA in the mitochondria.
It's pretty cool. So that means that the data that you're using for that, is it just the 4 letters you find in DNA? I guess those are nucleotides, right?
It's a long string of AGCT. It's just a text file with AGCT at every point. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to understand point A to point B here. So the A's, C's, T's, and G's, they somehow get turned into information that Audacity reads. So how does that process happen? How do we go from nucleotides to bytes?
Oh, it's just ASCII coding. And then it reads, I think I made it read 24-bit numbers because nucleotides are actually grouped in 3. I don't know how your biology is, but
I've known a little bit.
Well, if you translate your DNA to your proteins, then it's in groups of 3. So I try to keep that in there.
I see. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. Now, of course, you've got lots of other music, including I think some things with guitar and piano. Are you a multi-instrumentalist?
Yeah, I play piano as my primary instrument, and I also play clarinet and I play guitar and some various other flutes and other stuff here. But nice. Those are my 3 main instruments. Yeah.
Did you take lessons when you were a kid?
Yeah. I started piano when I was a little kid, and I never really got good because I didn't like practicing.
I understand.
Yeah. And at the time, I think I just didn't like the repertoire I was made to play. I don't know how it is where you live, but they make kids play classical music a lot here.
Yeah, that's it's interesting that you would bring that up because I feel similarly. Not that I feel that repertoire isn't good music or something. I think it's great music.
Very good.
It's just the focus I think in teaching is to try and get people to read things in a specific way. So, and it took me years and years to figure out that as a professional piano player, when I get something sat in front of me that I have to sight read, I'm usually using the fact that like I know what chords are and lead sheet is and kind of like rocking the shapes. I'm not going through every note and being like, okay, that's C, A, E. Like I don't think about notes individually whatsoever. If I'm sight reading, I just am seeing like where it is and what key am I in and things like that.
Actually, right now, I'm very happy they made me play classical music. But like at the time, as a kid, you're just there like, what? Why? I wasn't interested in it. But right now, I'm very happy I did. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because those songs are also just from a different time. So I guess as a kid, you're like, oh, I'm not really playing any of the songs I know. And like, I teach kids music right now in Carmel, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually teach them pop songs. So they really like that. And luckily, pop songs are also really, really easy for kids to play if they're like below a certain age. So you can learn a lot of them. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that's good for kids. Yeah. I always wanted to like compose and improvise. And there was also really no kind of education for that here. It was just, I was always like, I don't really want to play anyone's music. I want to make my own. Improvise, yeah. And that was never really something they did.
Right. Yeah. So how did you learn that then if there wasn't any curriculum for it?
It's just reading online and trial and error.
Yeah.
I had some music theory classes, but like honestly, everything I know is just I taught myself or I read books about it because the classes didn't really help much.
I think there's an assumption that the students won't use it or they won't be interested. But there's actually this great marriage of like music theory and improvisational skill where they kind of like help each other. But most people don't really want to learn both halves of it, I guess. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, to me, music theory has always been like more of a framework or like some kind of model to have in your head while improvising or playing or composing, and not something like, I don't know what people think music theory really is. I read so many like weird takes on it. Music theory is just like, it helps you communicate and think and have a language. That's what it is to me.
That's definitely what music theory is. And it also describes what has been done and sometimes can act as a predictor for what happens in the future. I think it will be really interesting in like 300 years when they're teaching more relevant things in the classroom. Like how much of, the standard like music theory would they teach? I don't know. I think they'd probably make it like one semester.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so in your compositions, does your improvisational skill affect them a lot?
I'd say pretty much like half of my song starts off as improv, and like the other half is composed really well. It's not really half, more like 2/3 improv, I guess. I like to really just do as much improv as I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's like if you start with improv and then you're spinning out the other things that you're thinking, it's almost like we can sort of hear you coming up with ideas to match what you've already done as we go on.
Yeah. It's like, it's my compositional techniques are kind of weird, I guess. Most of the things you hear aren't really improv, but they started as improv and then got like mangled up or like recycled into better things, because like my improv isn't actually that good, I'd say. If you would listen to me just improvise, it would not be very interesting, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like embellished, but like I like just talking in music, I guess, just being fluid and not being like writing down with my mouse or keyboard something. Yeah.
it's such an extra step in the process to have to actually write down notated music if you're just making the music yourself and then putting it out.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like, if I was a classical composer, I'd have to write down my stuff while I was composing. It's just such a weird concept to me, like writing sheet music down or something and not hearing it and then having it performed by someone. That whole process is just so strange to me. I could never probably get into that.
I mean, I think it's probably weird for a lot of composers too. It's not, since it's so difficult to get other people to play your music if they're not already in a group, special opportunities have to be set up. And so, there's also the software helping you audition. Like, there's definitely lots of situations where if I didn't have software giving me chords back, I wouldn't know what I was doing. And there are some situations where like I figured out something and I'm like, what is that? I got to figure it out. And then I have to write that down. Yeah.
I really need some like direct feedback when I'm making music, I guess.
So let's talk about some of your more recent music, I guess. Well, we can talk about Outer Gardens a little bit. I thought it was just really, really beautiful and well produced. And
thank you.
I thought I heard some microtones in there. Is there any microtonality happening in that album?
Yeah, there's quite some actually, depending on how wide you want to take microtonality.
Right.
Because like in its widest term, every track has microtonality in it. But if you're thinking about it literally like alternative tuning systems, then there's let me think. There's 22 Edo and 5 Edo.
I thought I heard 5. Yeah.
And Coming to the World, My Child is 5 Edo.
Yes.
And then the interlude is 22, and Gassy Webcap is also 22.
Okay. Yeah, I might have thought that some of those were JI. They seemed really close.
Yeah, I like. I have a guitar in 22 Edo, and like when you play a dominant 7th chord with a lowered or harmonic 7th, it sounds pretty much like JI. The tuning is not always that accurate, so it's like 22 is close enough to JI that's pretty much just dead on to me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you for sure there. I don't have a 22 tone guitar, but 22 is pretty darn close to that dominant 7th chord.
Yeah.
So would you say that sometimes the inequality of slight mistuning on your guitar, does that ever make like one dominant chord sound a bit less in tune than like another one that would sound way more in tune, like a bit of an accidental well temperament, or is that not something you notice very much?
Oh yeah, I actually I play on it a lot and then I don't tune it, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, now it sounds better than when it's actually really well tuned. So I don't know, it's just I don't mind too much when it's a bit off.
Right.
Yeah, fine.
I noticed you use the 11th partial a lot. What kinds of challenges come up when you play a guitar? How's it different from playing a 12 tone equal tempered guitar?
Well, I can't really play well on it because like I can play guitar very well anyway, and like on a 22 it's just one step more that I have to think about. But just like playing chords on it and not thinking too much about what I'm doing and just like vibing, yeah, it really works well in 22, I think.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, the interlude is all pretty much just me banging random chords on the guitar, and just they all work so well in my opinion. It's just
Yeah,
like
they do.
anything, well, not anything I guess, but like the way that one's recorded is just like it's a 10-minute long take of me just like putting down chords I like and then rearranging them into an order. So I have actually no idea what I'm playing on that specific one.
I should try and write it down in a
You can
score.
transcribe it maybe.
Yeah, that'd be really
I'd be
fun.
interested in an analysis.
Yeah. So you write in 22 a lot, don't you? Is that a tuning that you like to use mainly because you've got the guitar?
Yeah, I mean, I had to decide on a tuning for the guitar because I made it myself. I mean, I modified it myself, I guess. So even before that, I actually already really liked 22.
Yeah.
I guess the reason for that is that it's like reasonably sized, because 41 or something is way too big for a guitar. And it's the first one that sounds really good to me, but doesn't have mean tone.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So that was something I was really interested in. I thought about doing it in 19, but then I would probably just be playing mean tone and doing the same stuff, but in 19. So I wanted to kind of get out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you have to make those decisions in 22 about like which major second you're going to use if you're doing a simple do re mi.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. That's something you normally completely ignore.
Right. So. Yeah. So what kinds of scales are you interested in 22? Like in intro, what sorts of scales are you using? It kind of seems like it doesn't feel random to me when I listen to it. It just feels free, you know.
Like it's not random. Yeah.
Of course.
Just like using my ears, I guess. I don't actually. I almost never really think in scales, except for the diatonic scale because it's just ingrained.
Right.
Well, and pentatonic maybe, yeah. But I don't really think about scales. No, it's just like sounds and how they fit together.
There's lots of different ways that you can just put things together. And I guess when like you're composing by ear, that means that like you're playing something and then while you're in the moment, you just naturally think of like something that should come next.
Yeah.
And you figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often I think something that I use a lot is like scale fragments. Like I guess it's more like how the ancient Greeks had their music in like stacked tetrachords.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff is really interesting to me because like the fragments themselves are useful, and then you can just stack them and rearrange them.
Oh yeah, they're super useful as little like melodic ideas.
Yeah. It's like the melodic ideas are like locally defined and not really on a global scale thing.
Right.
They function like in a particular moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What kinds of synthesizers are you using for the electronic sounds?
It's just I think the electronic sounds are mostly just built-in stuff in Ableton Live.
Oh, okay. So you use Ableton then?
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah. Why is that a sad thing?
Well, I only use it because I'm used to it. I've been using it a long time, and it's actually kind of bad in my opinion. It's not very flexible at all.
Mm.
It's good if you want to do the things it lets you do. It's very good. But if you want to do something weird, you have to find workarounds, and I'm not a fan of that. So I'm actually, my idea was that Outer Gardens was like the last album I would produce with Ableton Live.
Ooh, so you're going to be moving on. different software.
Yeah. But then the question is, of course, what other software is actually good for making what I want to make and microtonal stuff, or I don't know, just experimental stuff in general. And well, my conclusion is really that there's no good software.
It's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you use Ableton as your DAW, does that mean that it comes in with built-in VSTs?
Yeah, it has like it just has like built-in sampler, analog, and FM synth kind of thing. Pretty basic, but they work well. So.
And they work for a microtonality as well.
Yeah, you can like rescale the sampler to play any kind of Edo tuning you want. Savage has a tutorial on that somewhere on his blog.
Yes, definitely. He would definitely be the person. Yeah, he'd be the person who would have that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like Reaper and Logic are two good choices for DAWs that you could move on to. I mean,
I've been messing around with Bitwig too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you
like. It's just the whole. It's not just like microtones. It's just the whole idea of using a DAW is getting on my nerves a bit. It's just like it does suppose a certain workflow, and you gotta. It influences how you make music really. So my dream is to make my own DAW, and I'm kind of working on that, but it's not really going well. It's very hard.
So your ideal workflow would be a DAW that has certain characteristics that would be good for you personally.
Yeah, I think workflow is such a personal thing, and I think ideally everyone should have their own DAW, and then everyone would make unique music because they focus on what's important to them instead of like focusing on what the DAW wants you to do.
Yeah, if only we were just all better at coding.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the Justy Draw I made. I've been posting about it on Twitter a bit. Yeah, so it's kind of
never going to give you up. Is this supposed to be a Rickroll?
I'm not sure actually.
Oh, okay. It kind of sounded like it. Like I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's a thing I've been developing for a while now.
Wow. So how does this work? It seems like, now correct me if I'm wrong, these lines here that normally represent things like MIDI and are quantized to 12 tone equal temperament, are they just fluid and pitch?
They're just lines, yeah. It's just a painting. It like functions like a painting program.
Oh my God, yes. This is what we need.
Yeah, so that one's wait, I can send probably one that explains actually. Yeah, last one actually shows what I'm doing.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's just a painting program, but like the lines you draw are notes. So it's completely fluid. There's no restrictions on anything. And that actually also makes it hard to use, of course. Because like if you want to draw a melody, you gotta be pretty precise where you put your notes. So I've actually never really made a song with it, but other people have been sending me some. So that made me pretty happy.
I'm about to hit the big chord you have here.
Oh, yeah. I have something in there to like make the grid to be a harmonic series.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Spear.
But yeah, I wanted to do something like Spear, except instead of like actually drawing all the partials, you just draw notes like that. Yeah.
Okay, this is officially the coolest thing ever. Because like oh man, it's so neat. You can just draw all those lines and they can just all come together. I'm trying to think of how that would happen in a DAW. You would have to just check it out.
Yeah.
Was it
In
really?
Bitwig, you can actually do something like this. You can do the microtone thing, but it's like annoying to do
Yeah.
if you just There's just that's my problem really. There's just like a lot of friction when using the software or DOS, I guess. There's just so much friction always when you want to do something
Yeah.
that should be natural. But yeah, having to figure out the UI for all this, and that's a big problem.
Yeah. I also really like just the approach of working with pitch in a quantized way. It's just one of many ideas that we can use to sort of enter the Xen harmonic realm. Like I've been really fascinated lately with pitch directions that also specify like a certain wobble or kind of like band of how big the pitch would be. Like maybe sing this note, but give it about 40 cents of wobble, and then sing this note as straight as you can, as like performance directions. And you can see that like graphically represented here in a really nice way.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of like purely vocal music.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing I want to do, but like program it in a very specific way. Because like if you're singing, everyone has their own voice and everyone adjusts to each other, and there's so much stuff going on that's just completely lost if you arrange a MIDI file.
Yes.
And that's all the small things that I want to capture.
Yeah. I also think of Melodyne a little bit. I don't know if you've used that.
I haven't used it, but I know kind of how it works. Yeah. It's I have used Vocaloid software.
Oh yeah.
And they also have great tools to actually tune the vibratos and very specifically do glides and all that stuff. That's also important to me. Yeah.
Wow, I am definitely gonna have to get this software when it comes out. Do you have any ideas for the name yet?
I'm just calling it Justy Draw now.
Okay, that's neat.
I don't know. Probably needs a new name, but I don't care too much about names.
Yeah, you're doing something new, so people are gonna get it.
It's just you can just download it from GitHub. It's just on there.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to give it a try. Let me talk a little bit about your cover songs that are microtonal, because I think you've got two. You did that Sati song, and then you did the Entertainer in 16-tone equal temperament.
Yeah. Those are just I just post them for fun because I don't take them very seriously. But yeah, the Sati one I actually did by hand, but it's just 19, so it's pretty easy. At that time, I was really still kind of exploring microtonality, wasn't very used to it, so I just did it as practice. Really, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Maybe yeah.
I think it's like 2 years ago by now.
Oh yeah.
Sure. And yeah, the Entertainer was really just a test for a script I wrote to convert 12-tet stuff to other tunings.
Oh, okay. And then you got to use it for that.
Yeah, I just put it through the script. I just downloaded a MIDI file and put it through. It's really no effort actually. Well, I coded the script, I guess.
That's so awesome. So does that mean that so does the script, like, is it looking for a particular scale subset, or how exactly does it work?
It's just the scripts. Well, this particular one is pretty easy because it works on any tuning that has a circle of fifths. And it just estimates locally where you are on the circle of fifths and then projects that to the other tuning.
I see.
So it works for, in 16 it's quite kind of funky because, of course, you're not in mean tone anymore. But like it works for any mean tone or Mavila tuning.
So what would it do with a tuning that had fifths that were just not maybe too wide out to count as either? Like maybe something like 18 EDO.
Well, it works, but it just it doesn't sound good. It's just the meaning of scales and distances kind of get lost. So like maybe do and mi, the re becomes higher than the mi, that sort of stuff. So it doesn't really
Right.
translate well. But yeah, the reason I made that script is also it works as a VST. So it just takes MIDI and spits out MIDI. You can plug it to anything. Because again, I want to improvise, and I don't have a 16-tet keyboard or anything else. I just have a 12-tet keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is basically that I just play in 12, and then the thing translates it to another tuning while I play.
Yeah, oh, that is a wild idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to make like different keyboards.
Right.
Maybe at some point I want to get some like an isomorphic controller.
Yeah.
But they're pretty expensive or hard to get by, so probably not. I think if I can make things work in 12 or in a 12 keyboard, I guess, then that's fine for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been really enjoying playing with it, really. It's just like another instrument. You kind of got to get used to like how it interprets your notes, but once you understand how it does it, it's like fun to play with.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't heard of anything like this before, because like I think that the normal usage for something like this is to take songs that have already like been made in 12 and then make like a cover song out of it, like Herman Miller's done that, but then using it as an actual tool for like improvisation and then like turning it into another tuning, that's really revolutionary.
That was really my idea for it. It's just easy to put songs through it. So I did it because it sounded funny to me.
And so that's also why, is that why you made the script in the first place then as well, to be able to do that in your compositions?
Yeah. That was really my goal.
Okay, cool.
I made another one too that's also usable for just 5 limit in general.
Yeah.
But anything higher than 5 limit is just problematic to play on a 12-tet keyboard.
Right, exactly, because you don't have that complexity.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Right, yeah. So are there any other tunings that you've thought about? Like, have you ever thought about messing with kind of the lower equal temperaments in your own compositions, or do you mainly want to use like 22 and 5? And I don't know if you've used 19 at all.
I have pretty much used all of them, I think, at some point, but not released songs made with it.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, of course, like anyone, I do a lot of experimentation when I'm just messing around and making small compositions as practice. But in the end, I really just want to write JI, but like that's even harder to do in most DAWs.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Pretty much impossible, really, unless you take like a small subset that you want to use. But that's not interesting to me because I want to modulate and all that stuff.
Right, yeah, exactly. And you need like special tools to deal with those ratios. I assume like you would want something that like Kite's alt tuner does, where like if you are playing a chord and then you keep going in just intonation, it will like retune adjacent notes for you so that it will.
Yeah. Even that is like pretty impossible for anything higher than 5 limit.
Right, yeah. Like on a 12-tone keyboard, you mean, or just in general?
On a 12-tone keyboard, it's really impossible. In general, it might be doable, but it's still hard, probably.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a real task. Yeah. What do you think about non-octave? Have you ever messed with Bowl and Pierce?
I have, but I'm not really interested in them because, well, to me, they just don't make sense. Well, I'm interested also in like psychoacoustics and how your brain actually interprets notes and consonants and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Like if you read the research, then it's pretty obvious to me that like octaves are just something very basic and not really cultural or anything. They're actually there in your brain, I guess. So to me, anything that's gonna be useful is gonna have octaves. They don't have to be just, but close. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, so have you ever, like, since you're into biology, I assume you've come across lots of articles about psychoacoustics and microtonality. What are some more interesting quirks of the human biological system that you've run across that you either utilize in your music or feel like people should know?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, there's one thing. They tested like, I think it was Amazonian tribes that are pretty secluded from other human cultures. Mm-hmm. And they pretty much agree on what is consonant and what's not, but they don't value consonants really. So like if you let them say, oh, I like this interval more than the other, then they don't care if it's consonant or not. But their brain structures still recognize it as consonant or not. So it's like, is it cultural or is it not? Well, it's both really. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, you can disentangle the notions of what it means for an interval to be in tune.
People call it roughness or whatever. There's a lot of concepts that are kind of like consonants, but not really. And I think it's important to like really think about what it means to be consonant or not, because that's really a pretty vague term.
Right. Yeah. It's got a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think roughness is a good term, but then also there was some, I'm not sure actually, there were more terms, because you can like disentangle it, into more specific things.
Roughness and discordance and dissonance.
Yeah.
If dissonance has to do with leading somewhere that's unexpected, that's tied into the notion of discordance and the notion of roughness, but then those are also a little bit different. I guess roughness is definitely more of a psychoacoustic term.
Yeah, roughness
that has to do with the critical band.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so great talking to you and meeting you. And
I hope I can get on again in like 3 or 5 years, and then I'll have made my own DAW and I can talk about that.
Yes, especially if the podcast is still around. I really hope it will be. But
I really hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back. Well, I hope you like it. And I will see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. The track you just heard was Sintel's Reed Sketches from his latest album, Outer Gardens, which you can find on Bandcamp. Please check it out. You can also try out his Just Draw It software on GitHub. Link should be in the show notes. If you want to help us out, please leave our podcast a review on iTunes and spread the word. We release new episodes every month on the 12th, or at least we try to. We're not perfect. Get yourself subscribed so you won't miss any episodes. Now and Xen is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, or you can find our RSS feed at nowandzen.libsyn.com. Thanks once again to Sintel for joining us, and thanks to everybody listening. We're here to spread the love of microtones, and you're a part of the team. As always, I'll remind you that we have a Patreon account, and that when we hit the 30 patron mark, there will be another keyboard arrangement of an Easily Blackwood etude. Your support is appreciated more than ever during this difficult time. If you have suggestions about how Now and Zen can help musicians, or want to voice your opinion about who should be on the show next, Patreon is the best place to do that, though of course we're active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This is a tough show to continue making for time and financial-based reasons. I would really like to keep making it, and I put so many hours, sometimes over 40, into doing it every single month, but if support continues to level off instead of grow, this cannot happen. So I'm saying that if the Patreon account doesn't hit 60 patrons by December 1st, 2020, I won't be able to put in the time necessary to make this podcast continue on my end. Sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. Thank you for your support. This episode is made possible by the generous support of our patrons, our Xen Harmonic patrons, as well as our Xen Harmonic gods, Christopher Bailey, Joe Weigel, Kit Dugay, Leland O. Weigel, Matthew Sheeran, Hector McGuffin, The Brass Whisperer, Tina Harmon Carteau, and Amy Coleman. Thank you all so much. I'm extremely sorry that during the June episode I forgot to read the Xen Harmonic Gods' names out loud at the end. I apologize, it just slipped my mind. So now you are there, and I will make that correction in the June episode and edit the file so that when you play it, it will have your names at the end. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next time on Now and Zen.